Brent, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm starting with a blank slate today. The brain is totally purged of all things, and so I sit here with actually feeling like I have nothing to say.
That's awesome. So, um, I've got something that's just rattling around in my head.
Perfect. How about let me like virtually like so here we go. I'm gonna shake your head.
Oh, wow, that's good. Yeah, there's a little bit more now. Now I'm certain that not
Can
only is that rattling around in my head, but also whatever it is that creates headaches and any of the other kind of stuff is now absolutely rattling inside my head. Um, the what if we take today in a slightly different direction and just see if it works?
Yeah. Now would be the perfect day because I got nothing.
All right. Perfect. All right.
Although I did put
Well,
in the tag for the news, so if we do spin it back towards the news, we can jump back in that. But let's
yeah.
go. Let's go in a different direction. And if anybody's watching us yet and jumped on at exactly the right moment, a minute and 30 seconds ago, hold tight. We're going for a new ride. Just chill. Don't leave. Just hang out.
Just hang out. We're gonna have a little bit of fun. We've been talking a lot about these tools, and and when I say these tools, a number of different tools and resources that are available to us as professionals who operate either inside organizations or either organizations that somebody else signs the check, or we're inside an organization where we're the person who signs the check. So we've got a couple of different types of folks that'll be involved in or in the space that we're operating in. And I thought, do you ever have one of those instances where you roll out something new and people come and take a look at it first? So adoption goes up really high and then it just falls off a cliff. Have you ever been involved in one of those situations where you implement some new technology, you get a big spike, you get a lot of early adopters, and then adoption falls off a cliff? Have you ever seen that before?
Um,
It doesn't sound like it.
well, I'm just trying to see. I don't think I've ever, I mean, I guess like it depends on how steep, what the timeline is for the steepness and how fast the drop off is. Cause like what are you referring to? Just an idea or a thought that you post on LinkedIn and it takes off and everybody's
Yeah,
with it. And
I
then
mean,
all of a sudden there's nothing. Or are you talking about a massive trend in an industry that kind of took off and then died off? So here, I'll tell you the biggest one, virtual reality. Done and a huge hype curve in 96, and it died off. It revitalized again in the early 2000s, fired up, dropped off. 2010, Facebook tried to do the exact same thing. It fired up like crazy. Virtual reality was a huge thing again, and then boom, dropped off. Nothing.
what about, like, have you ever implemented a new LMS inside an organization
Yes.
where you're part of the company?
Yep.
And you get a bunch of people who started using it at first with the big push, and then
And have it drop off.
yeah, has that ever happened?
Well, I'm sure it's happened all the time. I've heard about
No,
it
it's like
a million
to
times.
you though, like you've done it. You say you've
When I
done it.
did it, it doesn't happen to me. No.
Why not? Why are you special? That's yeah. So like, why are you special?
Okay, so what was special about the particular situation that I'm thinking of was because we didn't even have any product to put into the damn thing, and so it was used when it needed to be used. But other than that, it was a delivery mechanism only. It was not meant to be an ecosystem that people would engage in, live in, be a part of, connect
Yeah,
with. It was basically a vehicle for us to manage and deliver the training that we were tasked with delivering. So there was no expectation that people would adopt it, embrace it, hug it, give it a big squeeze, come in the morning with their cup of coffee and dial into it and like learn something. There wasn't that was not the expectation. It was simply a management tool to manage anytime we needed to deliver some sort of training. That was it. It was operations tool is what it was. It was how we operated our little microcosm of the business.
And in that instance, would you find new things that you wanted to manage inside that system?
No.
Over time? No, you wouldn't. It didn't. So adoption didn't really, it wasn't there anything.
It served its purpose for us, and that was it. Didn't do nothing more, nothing less.
Okay. So how about adoption of trying to think of different technologies that might get implemented. So how about adoption of, can you think of any technology that you've used on the corporate side where the first couple of times you used it, you're like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then you just kind of got back into your regular work and didn't use it again? Is there any technology that you've ever purchased or started using where right out of the gate you're like, hey, this is actually something that's useful. I'm doing it. It's kind of fun to use it. But then after a little bit of time, you realized, it's just getting in the way of the work.
I would say just about every tool I've ever touched, probably.
Not every tool.
Yeah, because I'm very easily distracted. So I'll engage with a tool. I'll be super psyched about it. I'll get into it. I'll learn it, and I'll figure out if it fits or not, and then I move on to the next tool.
All right. Do you think you're alone?
So I'm not a good case study for wherever you're going with this.
You are.
So,
Do you think you're alone in that?
No, and I don't think I'm alone, but I think those of us that do function in the spheres that I function in are unique in a very small percentage of the workforce.
So I'm gonna.
I don't want to call out any brands or anything, but I think one of the it's going to be hard to do this without people knowing what I'm talking about.
It's okay. We've got Wendy and Craig, you and me with us.
So I think tools like Synthesia, right,
sure.
and tools like Beyond and those very, 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 very niche tools that produce the exact same thing over and over and over and over again. Those are tools for me that are very exciting, very fun, very cool. Your head is swimming with cool ideas about how to use it, how it could be used, and the effectiveness of it. And you use it for a little while, and then you very quickly realize that it's a one-trick pony. That's all you get. And if you want to push out every single one of your learning programs, your content, and you want it to be that way, it's great, but that's not the way I function.
Got it. I'm going to pull in a couple of different comments from folks. Wendy, good to see you. Craig, good to see you. Wendy highlights that, hey, it's not just tech. And it highlights how important it is whenever implementing something new. It's important to both measure, gather your data, keep the information together, and have that information be front and center. She added in here about keeping track. Technology depends on the project, so she also monitors usage compared to other projects. And Craig threw out one of those spikes that happens. You remember the Beanie Baby?
Beanie Babies, heck yeah, I remember Beanie Babies.
Beanie Babies, or how crazy it was to get like Tickle Me Elmo a number of years ago, or Cabbage Patch Kids.
What's this year's like tool or toy of choice that everybody's going bonkers over and that's running out in all the stores? There's got
I
to be
have
something.
I have literally no idea. Like I'm so far away from it. The I am so far away from um so far away from it. So what I thought we would do, and this may go horribly wrong, and we might be in the midst of it going horribly wrong, and it's gonna be like the Fonz jumping the shark. But in so I just did a search here. What are some typical challenges when implementing new technology in organizations? And I think this is one of those pieces that gets missed is, hey, it's rarely about the technology itself. It's about the change management aspect of it. And you think about it,
Mhm.
like how hard is change? Like, is there anything that you've worked on maybe in the last 90 days, Brent, that you want to change that's been hard to do?
Yeah, like everything.
Like, so again, you're not alone. And I think sometimes we operate in this vacuum of everything looks good on a spreadsheet, or we think that we're going to hit these numbers in a specific pace. And I have no idea what Craig just said. LABUBU. I have.
Oh,
This sounds like
Labubu. It's the new trending toy. It's it's a meme. It's a toy thing. Yeah, I know Labubu. Yeah. Sadly, I do know.
I've
I
never
had
been.
no idea what it was until my son used it in exactly the same way Craig just did. And Linda and I were both like, okay, Matt, what the hell is Labubu? And he sent us a whole bunch of links. And so sadly, we were educated on the whole the life cycle of the Labubu. So can I just help you like with this direction here? Either I'm going to be completely contradicting you or I'm jumping the shark, but nobody cares about the esoteric stuff of change. No business, no SMB, no leader, no CEO. They all know everything better than anybody else. It's why they built the business. Nobody can tell them what to do. And if they want their fucking AI, they're just going to pay a company to do it. And they don't give any shits about if you call it change management, if you have to care about your people, you have to do anything like that. They do not care. Trying to sell something as esoteric as hey, you guys need to be thinking about change, you need to be more empathetic, you need to, blah blah blah. They don't care. They don't care at all. They were at a cocktail party with other CEOs that have the exact same company type of company, and they're all yucking it up over whiskey sours, thinking to themselves, "This is awesome. We just implemented our new AI." And you're the dork in the corner going, "Wow, we haven't implemented our AI yet. Shit, we better call a consulting company right away and get our AI thing together. So at the next meetup, I can tell everybody how cool we are that we're doing AI. Oh, it's going to cost $1 million. I don't care. Just implement it." That's how it works.
Okay, so if we agree with that being how it works, and we're tasked with implementing it, how do we address it?
We don't talk to the CEO about it until it's done and we can check a box and show him all the cool things that it has increased and improved in a very succinct format that he can or she can remember and be able to talk about very clearly at his next cocktail party.
So, when we fail at that, and I'm sure there are folks that have failed at it. I mean, I know I failed at it. I failed at a misperception around the amount of time that it takes to change something. I've also failed at uh, not creating the right amount of space necessary for that change to take place. Meaning you keep trying to force and push the change. What if you can design for the change? And And is that something that's interesting to kind of talk through? And are there ways to use, if we're going to use technology for good, are there ways to use technology to help us overcome some of those challenges like this change curve? Or I would even look at this, that implementation spike where things start to pick up and people get really excited, but then everybody kind of goes back to doing it the way they've always done it, and everybody panics in this area and then start saying, well, this thing isn't working, or why isn't this thing working, or we didn't do our jobs, or you didn't roll this thing out. And Wendy and Brent, or Craig, excuse me, are adding some comments in there. Craig is really appreciative that you are being as transparent and just telling people how you feel about things. And we know that all of this is about feelings. So the Wendy put in a change plan in here, and created training schedule, workshops, created the measurements, implemented, measured, adjusted, readouts monthly. So to the leadership team. I'm interested is as the comments kind of catch up, how'd the leadership team respond to it? What they push back on, Wendy, as you did it? And what I'm seeing in this conversation is Brent is one of those leaders who's really not interested in change management. He just wants to go do things. And what I'm trying to figure out is, hey, how do we do those things better? How do we do both? How do we help implement the
not just
change?
I'm trying to paint a picture of reality. It's not that I don't love where we're going with this and think that it's necessary. Absolutely 100%. And if you are in an organization where you are afforded a team of people and the money and the budget to be able to do a massive tech implementation on whatever timeline that they've given you, and be able to sprinkle all of the fairy dust stuff on top and do the fun, cool measuring and the touchy feely and the planning for the future and thinking about the future stuff. That is fantastic. I know there are organizations out there where it can be done. And I know there are organizations and there are people out there that do it. What I'm saying is that I highly doubt that it's the norm. Like, so my question would be, as you're going through one of these implementations and the issues start to pop up halfway through, even getting the tech turned on and started and launched, which thing gets dropped first in order to do an all hands on deck and keep the project on track? Does the implementation date get pushed out so that you can still do all of the other work along with the normal implementation work? Do you get more money and you're allowed to hire more people to catch up or to fix whatever problem is wrong because everybody's so busy doing the other stuff, prepping for the future? Do you, as the leader who's doing all of this extra and additional work, do you spend your weekends doing all of that work and working 24/7? You pull an 80-hour work week to do all of that extra stuff that's going to help fix the trough of disillusionment, 2 years down the road after the implementation? That is, if you even get to the implementation, because you're running into all of these issues. These are reality checks that I'm tossing a grenade into the conversation to just see, because we talk a lot about this kind of stuff. Here it is. L&D should, L&D must. We hear it all the time. This is one of those things. This is something that we must do. This is if we're going to be successful, if we're going to prove our worth, we should do this and we must do this. I say absolutely, you're 100% on it. how often does it actually stay on the top of the radar as something that somebody gets to focus on during a real live tech implementation?
Why does it fall? Like, why does it not stay on the radar?
Because it's not the most important thing at the moment. And it's not managed. It's a future thing. When
Yeah.
you're stuck in the here and now and you're working and you yeah, you go to the CEO and you're like, listen, this implementation, we've run into some roadblocks. It's off track. In order to put it back on track, we're going to have to take some of our team off of measurement, QA, future solutioning to what's gonna happen, to prevent some bad things from happening 5 years from now, or you can give us more money, or you can push out the implementation. Which one do you think they're going to choose? And even if you don't offer that as an option, they're going to say, "Oh, you need more resources? Well, what is Jane doing? Oh yeah, Jane's on the team. Yeah, she's working on the how to be sustainable and the how to build engagement and make sure it doesn't drop off. Okay, take her off of that, put her on the implementation for the South region, and have her go off and have her manage that part of the project. Okay, good, done. Move on. Next thing.
Well, and to get back into the reality piece, like how often is the CEO really involved in that conversation?
Or the leader, or the org leader. All I'm saying is whoever's dealing with the project, it's what's right in front of their face. If you're presenting them with a problem, they pick a solution and they go. You know that. That's how leaders move. Successful leaders, anyways. They don't sit and ponder things. It's what's the most obvious solution. Jane's working on shit that's not going to matter for 5 years. We've got a serious problem that Jane can fix if we take her off of the 5 year stuff, put her onto the fix the shit right now that needs to get done to keep us on track. Boom, done. Do it, move on. Next problem.
While you've been talking, I've just been dropping some stuff here into the Gemini chat, and just like, hey, this all seems fluffy. Break it down to practical steps when managing. um, and that the story that I'm attempting to tell with this in the background.
Without me interrupting and ranting at you, I'm
No,
going to be quiet. I'm let you tell the story.
the ranting and the interrupting is actually working really, really well. We're at a point now where Craig has so much to say, too much to type. So we were talking about triggers earlier today. I think before we before we hit record or before we turn this thing on, one of the things that I think can be super helpful. And one of the reasons why people work with someone like me, they bring in an external resources. It's a lot easier for the external resource. It's not even easier. Um, there's not as much risk in the external resource saying the thing out loud that everybody's thinking.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right. And I mean, for anybody who has kids, you tell your kids, whatever the thing is that you tell your kids, like, you know, I'm trying to think of some of the stupidest freaking things that we just say over and over again. But when you talk about them in your house, you sound like Charlie Brown's teacher. But then they hear it on a podcast, or they're talking with a friend's parents, or somebody else says this thing out loud, and it's this epiphany. It's like, whew, I have never heard that thing before. And you're like,
practice your guitar 30 minutes every single day. When dad says it, it's okay. I'm not going to do that. The guitar teacher, the cool guitar teacher with the tattoos and the long hair says it. He's in his room practicing 30 minutes every single day.
It happens. So if you know it happens, why push against it? if you know what
Human nature.
happens, what's that?
Human nature.
we're so we're just gluttons for punishment. We're just like, you know what? I'm going to see if I can figure out. I know that this is how this is going to play out, but I'm going to see if I can figure out the hardest way to do this. And in order to get my point across, I'm just going to talk a little bit louder and slower.
We just think it's going to be different every time.
Oh, it's always going to be different. Yeah.
We see things with rose-colored glasses.
Hey, at the beginning of the football season, I think the Jets are actually going to make it to the playoffs.
Exactly. See what I mean?
I have this belief, and then every once in a while, there's this little hint of unscheduled positive reinforcement that just gets me hooked and sucks me right back in. And what I'm wondering is, at some point, is there a benefit in going through this and looking at it with the leader and just kind of working through the challenge, getting that time together and using a tool like Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever the tool is as that external voice in the room?
Yes. And hello, Crystal. You and I have to catch up, by the way.
Hey, Crystal.
Thanks for dropping in.
Could you see going through this? Are there leaders that you've worked with where you
let's
think
read
you could
through
get them to
this.
slow down?
What
Where
does
you
this
could get
say?
them to slow down just for a minute if you had something like this way back in the day.
Yeah.
Where now there's nobody else that they need to defend their position with. It's just you, the leader, and the Oracle of Gemini, or what, or whatever.
So I will tell you, in my experiences, you have, and again, it's whoever you're talking to. Like when you say you go to the leaders, okay, if it's the CEO that's managing it, he doesn't want to go through, or she does not want to go through this process with you. You've been paid to go through this process and to just do it. The money is so you do the work, and that he and or she does not have to. Right? If they wanted to be involved and do the work, they would do the work. So that person's out. If somebody else was delegated and given resources and money to lead this, and their job is on the line, then okay, that's a totally different story. Now you're talking to a person who's fully engaged, who has nothing else. This is their OKR, right? Or their KPI, this one implementation, this thing is their thing. They succeed or fail, and they've brought you in to do this. Yes, they will sit and they will talk to you. But again, typically that may be how it used to work decades ago. Like I often think of Elf, and it always blows my mind when my two crack writers come into my office and they're going to pitch me a story, and your pitch is to bring in another writer. And I'm always like, wow, yeah, what a brilliant solution. If I could get somebody to pay me a full-time job to just hire somebody else to come in and do my job, there's the dream job.
He's an angry elf. I want to get into Craig's comment here in just a minute too, but there's this view though. So, and this is why that piece around the who has the problem, who's impacted by the problem, who cares about the people who have and are impacted by the problem, becomes so important, because you can start to gain additional perspective. And when you gain that additional perspective, you can start to lean on other people to influence. Because, like you said, they are paying you to do the job. They're actually paying for the job to get done.
Mm-hmm.
because for whatever reason somebody's agreed that this is the job that needs to get done at this point in time. And if somebody's OKR is X, or somebody's MBO is Y, or somebody, objectives and key results, management based objectives, like those kind of things, if they're defined, then it becomes a little bit more direct on saying, hey, so and so is directly impacted by this thing. They know at the end of the day, or the end of the week, or the end of the month, or the end of the year, they either won or they lost. They either achieved the objective or they didn't. And if you can't find that person who's connected to that thing and understand how that's prioritized to support the resources, then you're going to be caught up in the Sisyphus role of just pushing a rock up a hill over and over and over again and expecting different results.
Yep.
So Craig says, so what I'm hearing is, I'm just gonna, you know what, we're just gonna, it is what it is. And we're not gonna plan anymore, and we're just gonna go through things day by day.
Yeah. So what so what I'm saying, so here's to your point, Mike, it is, as long as you are the day to day. Here's the trick. Here's the trick to dealing with those people is you be brought in, you do it. You're not going to sit down and do a working session with them, but you're communicating with them every step of the way. You are planning it. You're going through these processes with yourself, with as many people as you can get that are interested in it. All I'm giving is a reality check to say, listen, you're going to run into situations where the person writing the check doesn't want to be in the room, doesn't want to know how the sausage is made, doesn't want to grab the pig guts and stick it on the little thing and shove the goo into the guts and make the sausage. They don't want to be a part of it. They just want to be informed. They want to be able to talk about it to the board of directors that yes, it's on track and it's all going well and everything is good and blah blah blah. So we communicate like hell with the people that need to be communicated with. So who were the three people? The people who care about it, the people who are being impacted by it, and the people who are, what was the other one? I always forget.
So there are people who have the problem.
They
They directly have the problem. So kid is in the car screaming and yelling. Screaming and yelling because the kid's hungry and we got to stop someplace, but we've got an 8-hour road trip, and if we stop, it's going to turn it into a 9-hour road trip because it's never a 15-minute stop. So the people who have the problem are the people who are hearing all of the noise that's happening inside the business. Now, the reality of that problem is maybe the kid really is hungry. Maybe the kid has their own specific problem. Maybe the kid just wants attention. So there's going to be different perspectives, but if we start solving for the hungry challenge, and really what they're looking for is attention, we're going to have a crying kid in another 30 minutes anyway, after we feed the kid, or they just don't want to be in the car. So there's this back and forth that happens around perspective of the actual problem, definition of the problem, and then the root cause analysis. Why does it persist? And that's working through that top half of that hexagon. As far as the who's, though, whenever you've got a problem out there, there's somebody who has the problem. There is somebody who's impacted by that problem. They may not have it directly. They're not directly connected to it, but they're impacted. They're not able to get their work done because this thing continues to exist. And there's someone who cares about both of those people. There's someone who cares about both those people. And that person,
let's add a person to the mix that falls under the cares about it. At your destination that you're headed to, that you absolutely need to be at your destination because there is somebody waiting for the vehicle. They need that vehicle, and it is life and death if you don't get that vehicle there. So they're going to care about your situation. Do you give them the problem and say, hey, The baby's screaming like crazy. We're pretty sure the baby's hungry. Do we keep her hungry for 8 hours, or are you okay if we show up an hour late and stop and get some dinner and feed the baby?
This is a really good thing to clarify. Um, they're impacted by the problem. They're impacted by the fact that the car doesn't get there, right?
Yep.
Okay. It's not that they care about it, they're impacted by it. It's not when I talk about care, I'm talking about they care about the people. So they care about those people that are involved in this thing. And it's a little bit nuanced. And you can get into the idea of this is to help us communicate in more broad strokes and be able to say, okay, well, we can gain perspective, put ourselves in the shoes of the people who either have it, are impacted by it, or care about the people. The caring piece is not about the problem, they care about the people. And the reason why care about the people is more important than care about the problem is because the they're not going to be overly focused on the solution or overly connected to the thing that needs to get solved. They're more connected to the people who are struggling with the thing, and they're happy to fund it. So think about this one. Kind of gone through this with in a couple of other instances, but um, so can't swim. Kid can't swim. Little kid, 3 years old, hasn't spent any time in the pool. Um, the problem is kid can't swim. So who has the problem?
The kid.
The kid. Okay. So who's impacted by the problem? The kid not being able to swim. Think about different people that are potentially impacted by the kid not being able to swim.
All the family, everybody that cares about the kid.
Everybody, well, not caring about the kid just yet. The people who are as far as impacted, kid goes over to a house that has a pool. Now that family's impacted by the problem because they've got a kid now in the house who doesn't know how to swim. They've got to kind of keep track of all of that kind of stuff, right? So now more attention is being put toward that kid who doesn't know how to swim. Now the other kids that are also at that party are also impacted by this thing. The kid has the problem. Parents are impacted. People around the party are impacted. How about grandparents? Where do they fit into this whole thing? They care about the family and they care about the kid. And they tend to have a little bit more money than the family does. So now do the grandparents start paying for swim lessons? Because the family can't pay for the swim lessons. And there again,
I tell you exactly what happens. Grandpa comes over and picks up that 3-year-old and tosses him in the pool and says, "This is how I learned. This is how you're going to learn too. So get out of the water."
Okay. So again, that grandpa was raised at a time and period where you didn't really worry about how safe spaces and how kids are going to feel when they're put into situations where they have a little bit of adversity, and that grandpa probably has a little bit of gray hair and a couple of wrinkles.
What's wrong? What do you mean your kid can't swim? Can't swim? Give me 5 minutes. I'll be right over there. Your kid's going to swim before the end of the day.
Yeah, but that kid is going to swim. Like that kid is going to learn how to. That kid is going to learn how to play the guitar. It doesn't matter how long they were going to sit in that room and figure out how to strum that thing and be able to play each of those individual chords.
Yeah, there's no messing around.
So there's sometimes those grandparents live in different places and they don't have that same access, and they could tell the kid, just throw the kid in there. And there's so many different ways to solve the problem. The point of this part of the discussion though is if you're not able to isolate for the people who and their relationship with the problem, you're going to struggle with getting support to be able to solve the problem. And if your objective is actually solving that problem, then and you're struggling with it, look at the support structure that you've got in place, and the path will start to reveal itself, which may be throwing the kid in the pool or going and paying for swim lessons. One of those things. It all just kind of depends. Like I've got an irrigation drip system problem. I know what the solution is. I just have to go start get some tubing, go out, do some trench work, and go out
dig the
and,
dang hole,
and
find the
just
leak,
take
cut
care
the dang
of what we
pipe.
do. But I'm putting it off. And why am I putting it off? Because I've always got something else I want to just take care of, or I want to get out on the golf course, or any of those other things. So the
Yep.
point of this conversation is shit's going to happen. You're going to have to deal with a lot of different challenges as you go through it. You leveraging a tool like Gemini or ChatGPT or some of the other things that are out there can be an interesting, can be used as an interesting tool to help open people's conversations where it doesn't feel, it's not you sticking everybody's nose in it and saying, you're wrong. This is what needs to happen. This is what we should be doing. This is whatever. You can bring in an external resource like this where there's not as much of the emotional connection. And that's where I think tools like this are going to help start change the way that people operate inside businesses.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And if people aren't using AI that way yet, it absolutely should. It's yeah. That would be an interesting experiment to have. Like, let's say you call a meeting, you invite your AIs along with you. How does that meeting go? I've never had one of those yet, and that's an interesting thought. Actually, let me read Crystal before I pontificate on that, or hold it till tomorrow because we're at 6:40. Crystal says a consistent pattern in L&D is that a plan is created and committed to, but the plan doesn't take into consideration the tools and resources needed to support this plan. Yep. I would have to go,
Everything looks good on paper. Right. Like, it looks good on paper.
Yeah. Well, because the sales guy said you were going to take care of that. I remember the conversation, and you get when I pay for this, I get all of these different things, and then I wrote the check, and all of a sudden now I'm getting a lot of pushback. How'd that happen?
Wait, you mean that thing that you said is on the roadmap? Is that you said is coming in Q4 is not coming into Q4 of next year?
Yeah.
Q4,
what we meant was Q4 in 4 years. So I'm sorry we miscommunicated that. Thank you for the check. It's already been deposited. We'll carry on.
Those are small details, like the development roadmap is subject to change at any point in time.
What, you didn't read the fine print? Did you have your lawyer read that? Did you not read that? Yeah, but anyways, so at what point does AI become an active part of your team, and that you accept it as part of the team? Or does everybody come armed with their own AI and it's just the supplement that's expected? So you're in a meeting, a question gets asked of the whole entire team. Nobody, it's like, hey, who, how should we deal with XYZ? Everybody starts typing into their AI, and then does everybody paste the AI's response together and then everybody reviews it? Or does everybody just pretend that they're not putting all this stuff into AI, and that they're having all of these brilliant ideas on their own? Is that how this is going to go down? Is it a phase that's going to happen in meetings? I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting.
It's going to be super interesting. So here's this is a coin that's very important to me. I keep it up on my desk. I got it from Bud, Jen's dad, before he passed, back when Mike and I started the business just a little bit over 10 years ago. And what we agreed is that if any point in time we just could not align on a specific decision, we would go to the coin. Because one of the biggest challenges that faces everybody, whether you're talking about small business, you're talking about large business, you're talking about teams of teams, you're talking about individuals, is making a freaking decision and then moving. And right now, what ends up happening, especially when everybody brings their AIs to the table before they come to the table, and they are so dug in, like, my AI is the best. It is the thing. Okay, yeah, this is good. Craig asked, at what point do we get to the point where we're feeding AI into the AI? Mine's 1974. Craig. 74 was the year I was born as well. So Bud was very thoughtful in how he did this and shared a letter on it. But so ultimately, we had a decision making process. We never went to that decision making process because always got to the point where we were never just so dug in on something where we were fundamentally opposed to it. It was very clear the thought process that somebody went into or justification that they went into around things. But here's what ends up happening. And I've seen it happen over and over again. We're talking about it because these are real things. People put stuff up on the whiteboard and then they stick it over in that far corner to the left off of the on the side that's out of frame. And we're going to parking lot that thing. And before you know it, all of a sudden you just got a shitload of stuff stuck in the parking lot, but no work is really happening. And you've got people frustrated inside the organization because they're looking around saying, what the hell are we doing here? Ask yourself this question. What decisions do we need to make? What criteria? How are we going to do it? And how does that actually align with, big thing for me, our guiding principles, not our values. Values are personal. Principles are something you can get aligned on. Brent, you got something going on later this week.
Well, hopefully we're going to be running a workshop on Thursday, and I'm going to have to get one of those coins and maybe end up flipping it, deciding whether or not I actually run it or not. Yeah, so hopefully, if anybody is interested in getting their team spun up on the semantics and the crazy world of L&D, a little bit of the history, get a little bit smarter around why we do what we do, how we do it, and why we're stuck in the situations that we are in, similar to today's conversation, but a little more specific to L&D. Let me know. Hit me up on LinkedIn on DMs, and let's get you signed up. I'm going to run this thing. I'm going to build all of the content out, and it's going to be something, but not exactly sure if the workshop. That's why we're testing. We're testing. So we're gonna run or at least present it every month, and see where it goes from there. But I think the content is valuable and worth putting out there.
And go and do this thing that Brent's talking about. And when I say go and do this thing, go to the workshop. And the reason you want to go to the workshop is if you're in one of those situations where you're selling into L&D or you're in a success role in the learning and development space and you're struggling with figuring out how or why customers are not performing at the level that you expect, one of the things you can take a look at is communication. And one of the challenges with communication is we say the same words, but they mean different things, or we think they mean different things. And I know we joke about inconceivable, and Rob Reiner was lost this week. And it happens over and over and over again when people walk out of a room thinking that we agreed to do something and everybody had a different perspective of it. And one of the reasons why that perspective is off is, number one, there are things that are said, there are things that are heard, and there are things that are remembered, and very rarely are they all the same. So we understand that piece. But beyond it, sometimes the things that are remembered are actually different because our definitions aren't clear. We overcomplicate them. Whether we're talking about L&D, helping humans perform, or we're talking about the general business, helping the business perform, all of this relates to that conversation that the thread that has been going through a lot of this since kicking off the show, which is how do we build business acumen? How do we understand how the business operates? How do we understand those things so that we can get the right fit in there and then influence properly? So check out Brent's thing. On my side, you can find your catalyst at findmycatalyst.com. Brent, we still going to do this thing again tomorrow?
We are going to do this thing again tomorrow. And I just want to point out that Crystal dropped in a movie quote. So I'm not sure what number we're at today, if we're still tracking movie or references, I should say. Not specific quote, but absolutely a reference. We'll count it. Thanks,
Yeah,
Chris.
it's part of the drinking game that we have going on. Here, you choose what you want to drink. For me today, it's coffee, and we will go through that. Craig has asked for a link in the chat. For those of you who aren't following both of us, make sure you follow us on LinkedIn. You'll see the link to Brent's session on Thursday, and don't make him flip a coin.
Don't make me flip a coin. And hey, thank you, Craig, so much for your participation. Wendy, thank you for hanging out with us. And Crystal, so awesome to see you in the chat. Thanks for